right is the right to choose, is the right of not being forced to belong to elsewhere or to someone else. This is the issue. So in human rights, in the basic rights, I think the most basic, the most important right is to the right of choosing what the people want, what the people aspire for. So I would start by a brief introduction on my land, my country, which maybe some of you doesn't know, or maybe know or doesn't know the situation, the difficult situation in which my country is now. My country is Western Sahara. It is in Northwest Africa, and this country have been occupied, have been colonized before by Spain for almost 100 years, and then instead of organizing a referendum, instead of letting the people choose their destiny, their fate, their future, like in almost all the other nations, the reality in Western Sahara was not that. Unfortunately, Spain did not hold a referendum, did not allow the people of Western Sahara to choose their destinies through referendum and to choose whether they want to be a free and independent nation or they want to be something else. This unfortunately didn't happen, and Western Sahara, through a tripartite agreement which was done by Spain, the ex-colonizer of Western Sahara, by Morocco, the northern neighbor of Western Sahara, and by Mauritania, the southern neighbor. This agreement entered into force in 14th of November 1975, and these three parties agreed to divide the territory of Western Sahara as like a cake, let's say, and say this part is for Morocco and this part is for Mauritania, without letting the people, the legitimate people and the legitimate owners of this land to say or to let their opinion about this issue, as if this land was the land of nobody. Unfortunately, this is what happened. Spain divided the territory into two parts, one for Mauritania and the other for Morocco, and started the other phase of occupation. Western Sahara people was thinking that with the end of the era of Spanish colonization, of European colonization, they will enter a new era, which is the era of independence and freedom, like the other people, like the other countries. However, this was not the case, and Western Sahara, the Sahrawi people, entered into a new phase of colonization, of occupation, led by, unfortunately, its closest neighbors, both Morocco and Mauritania. The Sahrawi people, of course, launched and continued, it was not begin, but continued the already launched resistance against the Spanish colonization, and led by the Polisario Front, which is the legitimate and the only representative of the Sahrawi people. And this is according to the Sahrawis themselves, but also according to United Nations and international NGOs, that the Sahrawi people is represented only and exclusively by the Polisario Front. So led by the Polisario Front, the Sahrawi people started and continued, carried on its resistance against occupation, against the Moroccan occupation, who brutally and annexed with its forces, annexed this territory and bombed the population of Western Sahara with internationally prohibited arms, and started this massive annexation against the population, against the human rights, and against international resolutions. So the Sahrawi people, as I stated, carried on and continued its resistance. At that time was an armed resistance against both Mauritania and Morocco. Mauritania in 1979 was obliged and withdraw from the war and signed a peace agreement with the Polisario Front, recognizing the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic and recognizing that the only and the legitimate owner of Western Sahara are the Sahrawi people, and that Mauritania will have no further intervention in Western Sahara. But unfortunately, the Moroccan occupation continued and carried on the annexation of Western Sahara, and continued the occupation, torturing the people and bombing the people and using internationally forbidden arms to destruct these people and to take the power over the land. This continued for many years as an armed confrontation, war between the two parties, Polisario from one part and Morocco from the other part. And under the Polisario resisted for so long, and forced the Moroccan occupation, forced the allies of the Moroccan occupation, because we're not talking only about a nation, about a country that is being undertaking some actions alone, but Morocco had and is still having great allies supporting them, unfortunately, to continue and to carry on this illegal occupation to Western Sahara. We are talking about great forces in this world, like it is the case of France, for example, who in a shameful way it is carrying on supporting and assisting the Moroccan occupation of Western Sahara. This occupation that is trying to delete from the map the population of Western Sahara, is trying to force the Sahrawis to choose something with force, and that are not their own beliefs, and that are trying to impose something on Sahrawis that is not the thing they want. So Polisario, as I stated, forced the Moroccan regime, forced the Moroccan country and its allies to enter into serious negotiations, which led to the intervention of the UN, the mediation of the UN to try to find a peaceful solution to this conflict. The UN intervened like in 1988, and in 1991 the ceasefire agreement took place between the two parties of the conflict, Polisario Front and Morocco. United Nations at that time in 1991 promised the Sahrawi people to organize a self-determination referendum in which the Sahrawi people will be allowed to choose its destiny, to choose whether to be an independent nation, to be an independent country, or to be part of Morocco, or to be something else. This promise took place in 1991, and now, 26 years later, this promise unfortunately didn't happen. The Sahrawi people is still waiting for that promise given by the United Nations, given by the international community, to make the way for the Sahrawi people to choose its destiny, to choose its future, and to choose whether the Sahrawis want to be an independent country or to be something else. So Polisario Front, the Sahrawi people, during this era entered into serious efforts to achieve the aim, to achieve the objective of the Sahrawi people, which is the independence, which is building the Sahrawi state, the Sahrawi sovereign, and free state in all Western Sahara. The Sahrawi Polisario Front also proclaimed a republic, a Sahara Arab Democratic Republic, which is recognized by more than 80 countries and has embassy in almost all these countries, and it's legally representing the Sahrawis worldwide. As I stated, after 1991, the United Nations started to search for a political and for a peaceful solution to the conflict of Western Sahara. But unfortunately, the Moroccan regime, the Moroccan occupation started to put obstacles, started to make it difficult for the United Nations to hold a referendum, to organize a referendum in which Sahrawis can choose their destiny, which is the aim, which is the only and which is the most coherent way to know, and which is also the most democratic way to allow peoples to choose their destiny and their future. The referendum, the vote, is the only way, is the only solution that the question of Western Sahara and any other question that is facing the same and that is object to the same issue is the only solution for that is the referendum to allow the people choose their destiny. From 1991 and up to now, the Moroccan regime is putting obstacles, is not allowing the United Nations to make the dream of the Sahrawis true, the dream of all the world to find a peaceful solution to this conflict. And let me tell you that now many Sahrawis, especially youth, got fed up, are no longer waiting patient for a peaceful solution. Many Sahrawi youth now are claiming that we should search for other alternatives, so for the Sahrawis to find the solution to their conflict and to find a way to get their independence and to get the chance to vote and to choose their destiny. Now, many Sahrawi youth living in the Sahrawi, the refugee camps, living in the occupied territories of Western Sahara, are claiming and are insisting and are putting pressure on Polisario to return back to war to achieve the objective, which is the referendum, which is the independence of the Sahrawi people. Because they say United Nations failed to give the Sahrawis their right. The United Nations failed to bring this issue to an end and to find the solution for this conflict that will lead the Sahrawis to choose their fate, their future through free and transparent referendum. Sahrawis now have been waiting for so long time, have been waiting for in a very difficult conditions. The Sahrawis in the occupied territories of Western Sahara are facing everyday brutal human rights abuses, brutal human rights interventions, and are facing the harshness and the lack of human rights in their land, because Morocco is controlling Western Sahara and is denying the freedom of expression, the freedom of assembly, and the freedom of people to express themselves and to say what they really do things. Now, Sahrawis, as we can see in the image, daily they undertake peaceful protest against the Moroccan regime, against the Moroccan presence and the Moroccan occupation in Western Sahara. And these protests, these peaceful protests, are faced with harshness, with brutal interventions, with tortures, with rape, and with other kind of human rights abuses and violations. Unfortunately, this is what we live in Western Sahara. This is our daily life because of the lack of the attention and the lack of will of the international community to solve this question, to put pressure on Morocco, to put pressure on the allies of Morocco to bring this conflict to an end. How to bring it to an end? By organizing a free and democratic referendum in which Sahrawis can have the right to vote. Now the situation is very serious in the occupied territories. Sahrawis in the Sahrawis in the other part, in the Sahrawi refugee camps, who were obliged to flee, who were obliged to go from its own territory, now also are facing very difficult conditions, humanitarian, lack of assistance, lack of aid, and they are living under very difficult conditions. Why? Because they are waiting for the international community, they are waiting for the UN to make a final solution to this conflict. How to make it? I insist there is no other way to bring this conflict to an end except by the most democratic and the most accepted way, which is through a referendum of auto-determination. This is, in summary, the issue, the question of Western Sahara, people divided into two: one in occupied territories facing daily brutal interventions, like we can see in this in the video, and other parts in the refugee camps waiting for the international community, the UN, to help and to organize this promised referendum since 1991. Now, what we want, what we claim for, and what we want people present here to do is to be aware of the situation in Western Sahara, but also to sensibilize, also to raise awareness about the conflict in Western Sahara, about the human rights, the very serious human rights situation in Western Sahara, and by putting and bringing the attention of the people worldwide to the question of Western Sahara, and to the question of these people, because they only claim one thing: they only claim their right to vote and to choose freely their destiny. Thank you very much.